Welcome to the First Responders Wealth Network. Our mission is to help all first responders change their mindset towards money and educate how to build long-term wealth through real estate investing. Are you ready?
We got another podcast here. I am here with Sofia Castro, which is Bobby's better half, and we are excited. We're just talking off air. She's actually down in the Bahamas right now, aren't you?
I sure am. I'm loving it. It's awesome over here.
That's amazing. So Sofia, has literally helped build a $400 million empire. And I'm going to get you to share your story a little bit because I think it's really important. What I get out of it, at least, Sofia, is your transition to where you are. It's not like you were born into, money or, opportunities being thrown at you. You guys really worked hard, and I really give you credit for that. And you guys are so genuine and down to earth. I know Bobby's come on a couple of times. We had a 2-part series and had a lot of great feedback from that. So yeah, just the transition from entrepreneur mindset to real estate to kind of where you guys are now. But so why don't you just share your story and give people a little background of who the heck you are?
Okay, well, thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast, Dave. I love the concept that you have behind your podcast. That's great. So me and my husband met when we were very young. I was 18 years old and he was 22. We both came from very similar backgrounds. I was born and raised in Hialeah, Florida. If any of your listeners know where that's at, it's a very Latin community where, modest families live. And we lived in the same neighborhood, grew up in the same neighborhood, but we never met each other until I was 18 years old. When I did meet him, Bobby already had a mindset at 22 years old that he was not going to live the way that his parents had been raised him. So when I first met him, he was very energetic, very like he is today. Very energetic, but he already had an entrepreneur mindset, which I didn't because I came from a family that worked 3 jobs. We were 7 siblings. My parents had to hustle in order to maintain 7 siblings, as you can imagine. 2-3 jobs that at one time, my poor dad, we used to work all day, sleep 4 hours a day just to be able to maintain us. So I just had the mindset that I had to work. That was my mindset. I had to work to make a living to be able to afford my stuff. So when I met him, he was like, gung-ho, I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I would look at him and I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was at that point. I was like, what? So we hit it off, basically, Bobby and myself. The first day we met, we've been together for now 30 years. Of course, we have our roller coaster rides in our relationship, just like anybody else does. But we've learned how to be able to manage our relationship and last married and happily married for 30 years. But when I first met him, he told me, listen, this is what my journey is going to be. You want to come along with the ride? I would love for you to come along for the, alongside of me, and let's go on to, opening a business, doing something, but I'm not working for somebody else. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that is, but you know what? If you're confident and you know what you want to do, let's go for it. And I did. I went alongside of him. We opened a few little side, businesses here and there when we were younger. They all failed, but we got great learning lessons from those failures. And that's what I always tell everybody. We learned instead of just saying, oh, we can't do this and give up. And this is why everybody, this is a normal thing. We don't have money. You're going to fail. We can't do this. This is not for us. It's only for rich people. No, we learned every step that we failed. We took the lesson from it and we said, okay, this doesn't work, so we need to do this. And we went learning along the journey. And then within those journeys, we had to live with our parents. We didn't have enough money. None of our parents had money. None of them. They lived paycheck to paycheck, so they couldn't help us. And along the way, we got pregnant very early on our stage of our relationship. We weren't even married. We were just together for 6 months. And that kind of put like a wrench on the road, because then we had to go back to work because we were like, okay, we have another baby. We have a baby now that we have to take care of another person. So we just can't be doing what we used to do and not worry. So now we both went to work, but at the same time, Bobby, in the back of his mind already, was still working on different businesses, what avenue he was going to go on, what we were going to do. So we stopped for like 2 years. We worked, we gathered some little bit of money, nothing major, $5,000-$6,000. I don't even remember. And then my mom helped us like 2 years later. My daughter was around 2 years old when we decided that we were ready to go on to opening a business. Bobby done a lot of research. One thing that Bobby does is that he researches the heck out of whatever industry he's going to go into. He's like a big researcher. He likes to know the competitors around him. So we were doing research and we got into this business that we did not know anything about, but we thought, God, there's not a lot of competition out there. And it was a brokerage firm for leasing heavy equipment. And what that did was it would consumers that were looking to lease like bulldozers, 18-wheelers, x-ray machines, any kind of machinery that was for the business, we would be the broker. What we would do is get that consumer and match them up with a community bank that would lend to small businesses, which was not easy at the time when we were in there. Not many businesses would lend to small businesses and lease. So we did that, and it really worked out. Meanwhile, that I was working during the day, and Bobby had 2 jobs during the day. At night, we would do, this little by little. And a year later, we both quit our jobs and we went into it full time. And we started seeing that the business was very legit and lucrative. It was bringing in, nice money for us at that time. We thought it was like great, and we really went at it, put in all of our efforts, and we started doing this business. We even brought in Bobby's brother, Eric, which is still in business with the business that we just sold. And we really said, we're going to go for this and take it on all the way. And luckily that business today, we sold a year ago in June for a $1 billion evaluation. So we took that business from zero, knowing not much about the industry, all the way up to an evaluation of $1 billion. So our entrepreneur mindset and focusedness was we were going to do it. And if you guys, I don't know your listeners, but I'm sure they've already heard Bobby's story. Myself and Bobby both are dropouts, not even knowing each other. I dropped out in 10th grade because I had dyslexia and I had a reading comprehension that teachers just never really knew or didn't even tell me. So I thought I was going to school and that I was not learning, and I would fail my classes. And I'm like, okay, enough. I'm going to work. I need to make money. I need to pay for my own car. I needed to pay for insurance. So we're both dropouts. So it's one thing I say about the dropout thing. I say it because I want people to understand that you don't need to be this genius person to be able to be an entrepreneur. My kids finished school. I'm a big, big advocate of finishing school. If you want to go to college, that's beautiful, but at least get done with school. I think education is important. You need it for many aspects of your life, just to read and know how to add and subtract, right? But I say it just because and I'm not proud, oh my God, I dropped out of high school. It's not a thing that I'm proud of, but I just like to say it because I want people to understand that you could do this if you really want to. It's all about your mindset and that heart that if you want it, you're going to get it.
I agree with that. And it's interesting to hear, that was a lot of your background right into like one synopsis there, but it's interesting how far you guys have come. The transition from where you were to obviously where you are now. You're built what you have, and I know we'll get into the real estate side of things too, but I guess you talk about education, and there's one thing, there's always heavy debate on that with the amount of debt that's in the US right now, especially for education and that sort of thing, and what are people actually doing with it. But I mean, completing something is obviously number one. You want to complete anything you start, but it all depends on what route you want to go. I mean, if you're going to be something in a specific route or specific field, obviously you need those college education courses, but there's a lot of, if you're willing to go into the entrepreneurial space or open your own business or do something on yourself, I mean, the default of going into universities and colleges is not the go-to. So I think it's interesting for you to say, you literally dropped out in grade 10 and look where you guys have both become. So Very, very interesting.
Yes, I always preach that if you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to be a CPA, if you're going to be an architect, something that you need that degree, then I say, you know what? You have to go to college. You need it. It's a must. But if it's a person that's just going to college just to say, hey, I got an AA, what are you doing with that? So you're getting yourself into debt. You're doing a lot of things that you could use that money that you're putting yourself into debt to create a business of your own and become an entrepreneur. So it all depends. I agree. I'm all for education. I do not ever discourage anyone not to, but it's not needed if you want to be an entrepreneur.
And I feel the world's shifting too to more of like the experience-based side of almost like an application process. Like what learning experience do you have? What life experience do you have? Like I know even for policing, sometimes they look or they go through phases where they want people with a little more education, and then they'll go through a phase of a little more life experience, so it all depends. But there's nothing more powerful, I guess is what I'm getting at, than actual like life real experience. And part of that is part of your journey of failing your businesses, which gave you the ability to kind of grow that company because of those failures. So.
Oh, 100%. Those failures, I tell you, everybody needs failure. They're the best learning lessons. Now, that's if you take it as a lesson, because a lot of people fail and they don't understand that was a lesson, and they just disregard it and they either do the same mistake again, or they just give up because they failed. But for us, for Bobby and myself, has been the biggest education for us. Life education has been the failures, because we just pick up from there, make them better, and then that just lets you climb up to the next step.
Yeah. Take those failures and they're learning seminars.
Yes, exactly. They're university degrees.
Definitely. Well, we all have many degrees then, if that's the case.
Yes.
So where was the transition then into real estate? And, we could go down and talk about your business and building it. And I mean, it is pretty amazing how the scale and the size that you guys did that with even your brother, Eric. But where was the transition from like the idea of not only just the business that you're growing, which in our case would be, you're working on the road, you're a first responder. So I consider that like that's our number one business, but also building something on the side. So you guys went outside of your normal business and started thinking about other income streams and looking into real estate. So like was there someone that just kind of nudged you and said, hey, think about real estate, or did it fall in your lap, or is it something that you and Bobby always wanted to be to learn about and involved
from day one, Bobby always loved real estate, right? And we always wanted to go into real estate because we always knew that that's a business that's here forever. It's not going anywhere, no matter if the times are good or bad. But at the very beginning, we just didn't have the money, the capital to be able to invest into a real estate property to make money and to make that into a business. It takes a lot of money. People say, oh, you go into real estate with $0. That's not true. I don't care if you're able to finance it with $0. You still need money to be able to maintain that, the real estate business. So at the very beginning, we always wanted to do real estate. We would go and walk properties. We would go into appointments and go see houses. I mean, everything real estate, but we just knew that we didn't have the capital for that. So we needed to create a business that was going to give us the capital to be able to invest into real estate. So we started dabbling very little in 1995 into buying one little house. We would live in it for like probably a year so that we didn't have the capital gains. And then we would flip it, go buy a bigger one. And we did that for like 2 or 3 years. And then the kids just got fed up with it. And they were like, okay, no more moving. We kept on moving with the kids because we didn't have enough cash flow to buy a house for ourselves or even rent and go buy a property, So we said, okay, we're going to sacrifice this ourselves and we'll go buying and flipping. But we saw that was just not enough cash flow that we needed. We wanted cash flow and we wanted, big returns. So we stopped doing that and we started back in like probably 2003. We said, no more. We're not going to do this anymore. We're just going to buy our property for us. We'll stay there and we'll start stacking, which we call stack and rack. We started stacking and learning more about the industry. And we would read and we would go into seminars and we were doing things and we knew that we were going to get there. In 2003, we got approached by a big group that they were doing condo conversions. I don't know if you know what condo conversions are, but
I do.
Condo conversion. Yeah, 2003, 2004 was very, very hot. You would buy apartment buildings and you would turn them into individual doors so you could sell each door to an owner. So now that one building would be a condo instead of an apartment building. So we went into that industry because somebody approached us and said, hey, I know the whole business. You guys have the money. I know the knowledge. Let's go into partnership and let's go do this. But we had zero knowledge. So we went in the time that was extremely bad time, because when you buy a multifamily to turn it into condo conversion, it takes 18 months because each door has to have a private deed, individual deeds. Well, that takes a long time. The attorneys it takes a long time, a lot of money, and it took us 18 months. In that 18 months, we got into 2006. 2006 rolled around and we started seeing the financial depression that was happening. It was the very beginning, but we were already feeling it because when we were trying to sell, we couldn't really sell. And then we're like, oh my God, we don't know this industry. What the hell are we doing? This freaking financial world is coming to a crash. We had bought about $78 million worth of assets that we had possession of and that we couldn't sell. So we started panicking and we were like, oh my God, we need to get rid of all these buildings. We don't know this industry. The world is going to start coming to a crash. And we have $80 million into this industry. So we started selling off all the apartment buildings just for pennies. We were coming to the closing table with money instead of receiving money. But we stayed with 3 buildings that we had not converted yet. They weren't fully converted and they still had renters in it. So we said, you know what? We're going to keep these. We're going to try to learn the rental industry. We're going to try to pull some money on the cash flow, at least to pay the expenses. We had bought those buildings too expensive to cash flow as a normal multifamily. So we knew we weren't going to make money, but at least to cover expenses until we got ourselves back into, clear waters. So we almost lost it all, like literally went into foreclosure. We could have lost our business. What Bobby did was that he focused on BHG, went back, let go of real estate completely. Myself and Eric focused on the real estate part. We started learning that a little bit more, trying to maintain it. And Bobby went to BHG. In the financial crisis, BHG just flowered. I mean, it just went from being a nice company to being a huge company. We just grew in those from 2006 on. That company has just continued to grow and grow and grow. Luckily, that company was able to support all the expenses that we had with this real estate that we decided to do on the side. And luckily, Bobby being so focused with our other partner, Albert, they just really just hammered that company. And that company, like I said, started growing, was able to cover expenses. We then got rid of another 2 buildings and we kept 2 of the buildings that were cash flowing that we knew that we would be able to make them at least bring in some money. Well, I started learning that business really well, being in there all the time. In 2011, our business partner from BHG, they decided that they no longer wanted a real estate side of the business. So Bobby and myself bought out those 2 buildings that we had kept, and we opened Ortsac, which is what our, Ortsac Capital, which is right now what we've been dealing with to 2011. So what I did was, my daughter had dropped out of college. I brought her in with me and her, and we started buying single family homes to rent, just so that I could teach her the business a little bit and not get myself too overwhelmed and too big so that I could have another failure. So I bought 16 homes, little by little within a year. I started learning how to rent them out, and we started knowing the management behind it, because the management is what makes real estate. When you're going to be in a rental environment, you need to know management. Management is what's going to keep you afloat. Yep. So we started learning management. We started learning what it was all about having rentals. Being that we only had 1 unit, it was easy to learn. And then in the ending of 2012, we started buying duplex and then a triplex and fourplex. And we went on like that until 2017. We have bought 23 properties, which equaled out to about 330 units. And they were all little small. The biggest one was 32 or 36 units. That was my biggest in that portfolio. but it was, like I said, a learning curve. We wanted to learn. In 2017, we said, you know what, we're ready now. And the market was just another thing why we said we were ready. The market was so hot for these small little units. We kept on getting offers from everybody wanting to buy our properties. And we're like, no, we're long-term holders. We're long-term holders. But we started evaluating and started learning more about the bigger properties, the 100 plus stores. And we saw that the cash flow was much bigger, of course, but we were also, if your vacancy rates were lower, you're still in a safe spot because you still have multiple units paying. So we started then learning about the bigger units, and we said, okay, this is the time to sell. The market was hot for the small units, and we sold all of our 23 properties that we had that equaled out to 330 units, and we sold them, and we got all that profit, and we bought our first big property that was 360 units, 368 units, I think it is, which we still own today. And we started lurking, saying, okay, now we learned, and we learned we had two big properties, 164 units and a 364 unit. And we said, okay, we're going to learn how to manage the big ones. Well, guess what? Management, guys, like I'm telling you, was so different. Managing your little fourplex, your triplex, than managing one big property under one roof. I thought it was going to be much easier because I had 23 properties spread throughout Broward and Dade County. So I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a cinch. I'm in one property. I have everybody under one umbrella. I don't have to be worrying about. No way. It was much harder and much different. So again, this is where I tell all these entrepreneurs or anybody that wants to invest into real estate on the side, management is extremely important because it could fail. So we struggled for the first 3 months, learning the bigger units, having more employees, the whole 9 yards. And we kept that way until just last year when we sold BHG. We decided, you know what, we're going to let go of management. And we're going to, now that we don't have BHG, that we don't have another steady business that we have to concentrate on, let's go of management. We let go of BHG. And now let's focus on growing our portfolio and really doing asset management now instead of property management. Two different businesses. So we hired a very big company, which is Lincoln Properties, to manage our properties. And that was last year in September. And today we do asset management. And it's when I tell you, and I know I'm jumping a little bit around here, but I want to explain about property management, how important it is when you want to get into real estate. Due to the fact that we knew how to do property management, when this management company came in and started managing our properties, they were doing things that we were like, okay, no, this is not going to bring in revenue. We don't like to do this and that. And they respected us when we went into telling them, listen, I know this is the way you run it, but we like to run it like this because cash flow to us is important. Our customer service is important. Retention is important. And they respected us because we knew what we were talking about. We managed our properties for 7 years. So knowing that we're successfully now knowing how they're managing to see if it's the right way. And one of the things that I'm going to, explain to you guys why I think, management is so important. Property management is when they want to do a repair. For example, the company, say that your building has a water main problem, right? They come in with a vendor that they've already been used to, and they bring them in, and that's it. And the bill was $10,000. Oh, this has to be repaired. It's $10,000. No, did you get 3 quotes? Oh no, we use this vendor all the time. Guess what? We don't work that way. We want 3 quotes from 3 different vendors, and we want to make sure that this vendor is reliable and that they're going to do their work at the time frame that they said, and that just because they, we need to make sure that it's the cheapest. Well, we brought in 3 quotes, and guess what? Another vendor was cheaper, but that vendor, when we started investigating, had too much work in his lap, and it was going to take longer than the other vendor that was going to charge us more money, right? And then the other vendor that was right in the middle kind of like had a little bit of both. He didn't have too much work. He had the right experience. So, you have to play around with all these facts. But if you don't property manage and you don't know it, you can't voice your opinion.
Right.
So that's why it's super, super important that if you're going to get into real estate, know the industry that you're going to be in, know your property management so that you could have a successful outcome.
You always have to manage the property managers, and that'll never change. Because like you said, if you just let them go wild, it absolutely crucifies your cash flow and your returns. And, and there's some situations, obviously, you're doing at a state or at a province type of investing, you need those property managers in place. But like you said, if you don't know the business, you can really get taken advantage of pretty quick. What do you find, or what did you find, like the biggest difference from the managing side, or maybe some difficulties from going from, you're smaller. I know you had one, I think it was, you said 32 units, but your fourplexes and your duplexes and whatever case, all the way jumping up to that large scale 100 plus units. What did you find the biggest difference with managing, or obstacles with managing? Was it just the transition? So
I think it was structure. When you have the small little units that you're only dealing with 2 or 3 tenants, structures, you need it. Of course, you need your, accounting structure, you need your, your due dates and all that stuff. But the structure of having 10 employees in one spot, how employees always, this one doesn't do that. Because I did this. Because I did that. So a structure of building a team is completely different. You're having more employees interact with one another. And the other thing is you have more tenants. So even though I had 330 tenants throughout, now I have 360 something tenants in one location. They're like babies also. They complain about everything. There's way more complaints. You have, instead of 3 tenants, now you have 360 tenants, so more complaints. I think that also having a communication with your tenants of like really sending them emails and being more interactive with them, having them to do events for them, keeping them more happy because they talk among each other, So you have that tenant bickering, and you have that, then they like to write reports on the online. And so I thought, it's just the structure. It was just more, and I was used to it. I mean, BHG, we had, 500 and something employees. It wasn't that I wasn't used to it. It was just a different type of structure that I had put in place at the very beginning. And I thought that I could just get that small structure, bring it into the big structure, and that it was going to work the same.
Economies.
And it did.
Yeah.
It was just, So, it was just, it's a little bit more work on the owner. If you're going to self-manage on a bigger units, because like I said, just more employees and more tenants.
Interesting. That's some good insight, because a lot of people, it's like any journey in life, but also especially the investing journey, I find everyone starts off small. There's some people out there that say, you start big. Like, I know Cardone's always saying, go big, go big, go big. But it's like, you just can't start there. You got to start small. You got to understand, you got to build your foundation. You got to understand the ins and the outs in order to even get to that level. Because like you said, otherwise, if you don't know what you're doing and you just start big, you're going to get taken advantage of. It's just the way the world works. And you got to cover your own butt in order to make sure, each line is taken care of in the spreadsheet. Otherwise you're not able to stack and rack, right, Sofia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know what? That was something, we had the money. I could have started extremely big like we did in 2003. And look where we ended up, almost being in foreclosure, losing all of our life savings, losing our business that we had worked so hard for. So it's not about just because you have the money. I don't care how much money you have. If you don't have the knowledge and you have never been in that industry, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. It's just logic. It's like, you can't go jump, there's a ladder, and you're not going to tell me that you're going to go from here and just skip all the steps and that you're going to reach the ladder on the top successfully. I'm sorry, you need those building blocks in order to get there. And every little detail, every small little lesson, I don't care how small it is, it's a lesson that helps you be able to build a concrete empire instead of a sand empire. because you could build it, but it's going to collapse. I don't, and it's not that I'm wishing, no, it's just facts, guys. You have to learn every little inch of a business in order to build a concrete wall.
Cool. And I know you and Bobby are both, honestly, you guys are both genuine people. Bobby helped me out a lot and gave me some direction too. But just you guys are very into the social media, and you guys are getting out there, you're building your brand, and you're giving a lot of great value and educating people on real estate. And I know I've seen your videos on your Instagram pages and stuff. So what exactly are you, I guess, helping or telling new investors these days? Like, where should they start? What should they look at? Like, what type of things do you see people struggling with, I guess, when they approach you?
So the main one I tell you is stacking up cash. I get a lot of DMs. I get a lot of people asking me, can I start into real estate with, $5,000, $10,000? Guys, I know there's a lot of people out there that sell these programs, go into real estate with zero down, use other people's money. That is for me, we've never done it. I never will do it. And I would never advise anybody else to do it. Stacking up and learn. Meanwhile that you're stacking, you've got to grow a knowledge. So you have to go stacking, learn whatever real estate you want, because there's a lot of people that want to do flips. There's a lot of people that want to buy houses and do like Airbnb. There's a lot of people that want to, be in the rental business and get cash flow. Whatever, warehouses, commercial real estate, whatever industry you want in the real estate industry, learn them. They're all different. So for example, me with multifamily, I only know multifamily. I have never been involved with storage spaces. I've never been involved with retails. I've never been involved with hotels. So if they ask me any of this, I'm like, guys, I could give you a little bit of knowledge because real estate is real estate, but I can't give you the knowledge of that specific lane that you want to go into. So learn whatever lane you want to, get all the knowledge. There's so much free information on Google, on YouTube, to learn whatever you want. But stacking, guys, stacking. When you buy a building, I don't care if you buy a building for 5% down, which doesn't exist, but whatever. There's a lot of people out there that say it does. That's up to them. If you want to buy a building with 5% down, they don't think about closing costs. They don't think about your insurance. They don't think about the first day that you step into that property, a window could break, a leak can happen. Anything could happen. So you need to have a reserve just in case anything happens. Your mortgage payment could come due and your tenants didn't pay you. Now, what do you do to pay that mortgage payment, right? So there's little things that could happen. So my biggest advice to anybody in there that wants to get involved in real estate is stack and rack. Stack your money and rack all the knowledge you can get in the area that you want. Extremely number one before anything else. That's my first advice to anybody.
Yeah, 110%. And also, to go a step deeper, I find is you can't stack and rack unless you have control and you really understand your own finances. So if you can't control yourself and really understand what's coming in, what's coming out, where things are delegating, and really take that accounting approach in yourself, and if you can't do that, then you can't operate a real estate investment, and you can't dare ask anyone else to invest with you and other people's money. And I invest with other people's money, and I do deals. I have experience in that. Like, if you're just starting out that way, I highly caution you don't do that, because like you said, you got to learn. But it all starts with control and learning the foundations. And if you can't control your finances in and out, you can't stack anyway. So I think the biggest thing, it comes down to self-discipline and your ability to actually stack. Because I feel, Sofia, a lot of people in my world and first responders, I mean, it is like the funniest thing. Every single person who starts this job, as soon as they get that paycheck or that first pay bump, they're out and they're buying like the most expensive car, the nicest truck, or, they're just blowing it. So if you're out there and you're just thinking about doing that, think twice. And like you said, make sure you're stacking and racking, make sure you have control of your finances, what's coming in and what's coming out. Cause like you said, that is really, really, truly is the starting point right there. Your ability to stack and rack.
100%. And if anybody, like I said, Bobby and myself, we worked 2-3 jobs at the very beginning just to start stacking and stacking. So we knew, and we would sacrifice a whole lot. Even today, guys, I know everybody says, oh my God, you guys are millionaires or this. We stack like you cannot imagine, because money or a business could go down at any time. We're not invincible. We're human beings. You could lose. I mean, of course we're not. We're very focused on not losing that. We have a generational wealth image in our head that we've already started creating for 100 years. Literally, we have a 100-year plan for our wealth. But people out there, even in our level, they go out there and they think, let's go buy everything and let's go spend. Guys, that's not everything. Like for us, not for us at least. We live right now. I'm at the Bahamas for a month. Yes, I could do that. We've busted our butts for many years, and we have stacked that. Now, one of our expenses on our finances is vacations. We stack just for vacations, and we could go take vacations whenever we want because we learned how to financially set ourselves for a win, not for a failure. So going to buy these stupid little things that you think that is to show people, oh, look what I have. Don't do it until you don't have it. And another thing I tell everybody too, don't go buy yourself a personal home until you have not made it. Get that money that you're going to spend on a personal home and go invest it in a property, on a business that's going to make you money, because a home, all it does is that you throw the money into a garbage can, you're not getting nothing in return. People think, because I'm going to make millions of dollars if I hold my house for 20 years. Guys, think about the money that you spend on your mortgage, on your taxes, on your insurance, on your repairs, on anything you do on your house. It's all going into a garbage can, where if you get all that money that you have, the down payment, the money you're going to spend monthly on your mortgage, stack that and go buy yourself a business, a real estate business, whatever. Me, real estate, because I think real estate's the best business in the world, because you get cash flow on a monthly basis. You could go away on vacation and it's still bringing you in money. So I love it. But whatever it is, until you're not made it, until you don't have a certain money of levels, go rent, guys. Rent, and save all your money to go buy yourself a real estate investment or a business. But, that's another thing that people do too. And I think it's nonsense, but you can't. They raise themselves with that American dream. It's the American dream. It's not an American dream. It's, a pit. And I own a home, so not to be a hypocrite. But again, I own a home now that, we've made it to a certain level, and we're like, okay, now we could afford to, have that home there and not worry about it,
Yeah. There's always two sides to that debate, and it's, forced savings. It's your ability to save, and, you're only saving, I guess, half of that because half of it you're paying interest, but, the appreciation, the principal pay down, but you're not being paid. So you're actually paying to live there. So I get that. And if you're willing to focus and build that, portfolio or whatever it is, then renting, I rent where I live. And it's just one of those things where it's tough to have that conversation because it's built into your DNA as a young kid.
It's a DNA. I mean, and it's such a wrong conception of, if they only understood, if you have $25,000 to put as a down payment and you're going to spend in $10,000, let's say, or whatever, $5,000 in expenses a month on that house, because it's not only your mortgage. People have to understand, you have landscaping, if you have a pool, if you have, little maintenance things that you need to fix in the house, all those monthly expenses add up. So save that monthly expenses, put it in your stack account, so that in a year you're able to have a nice little stack to go then rack.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard to explain that to people that don't have the mindset of an entrepreneur. They just don't get it.
Yeah. And especially where people live too, the appreciation's gone so high. So that they've been riding this like pretty sweet wave for so long that, that's their argument. It's like,
but you know what, David, I challenge them.
Yeah.
I do a 10-year workout. I've done this for many people. Get the cost of the house that you put your down payment, get your insurance money, your property taxes, and a 10% expense for reserves, and your landscaping, your electric, all that stuff. Do it for 10 years. And then increase the value of your house by 3% every year. 3%. You're going to see that you're still not winning. You've spent more money in the 10 years than you have gained on property, on your value of your property. But you think that you got money because at the closing, you're getting back that down payment that you put in your house, right? Or the increase of value. But your expenses, you had spent that already. So you're just getting all that money back that you spent. So if people understand that grid, they'll say, oh, wow. But a lot of people don't do that,
Yeah. No, I know. I agree. Like I said, it depends on what the appreciation is. People are so used to like 10% or more a year, but it's like the average, if you look in the last 80, 100 years, I keep talking, it's like 3 to 5%. So depending on where you are, maybe downtown's a little heavier, but anyway, I agree. I'm in the mindset because I'm always building and growing. So, you don't have to talk me into that one.
Yeah. I love it.
Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And honestly, before we sign off, just let people know where they can get a hold of you or where they can follow you.
Yes. So my Instagram is at official Sofia Castro. And on LinkedIn, it's just Sofia Castro. My Facebook is not up yet, guys, because I'm not a huge social media person. I'm doing it because I want to give back, and I really enjoy, giving my knowledge, and I want everybody else to be able to do this and know that they could do it. But my Facebook is coming soon. They're already opening it. It's going to be Sofia Castro also. Instagram right now and LinkedIn are my two social media handles that I do.
Cool. And I really do like what you guys are doing. Like, you guys aren't selling nothing. You're just giving, and you're coming from a good place because you guys have gotten to a certain point where you can. So I love that that turnaround. So one last thing I never asked. What are you guys focusing on now? What are you looking forward to building or growing the portfolio, or like what are you focusing on?
Oh, yes.
We're in a weird place right now.
Yeah, so we're growing the portfolio. That's our strict focus right now. We just purchased a property in El Paso, Texas. It was a 400 unit property. We're actually under contract with a property that's about 236 unit that we should be closing in about probably 60 days, I would say we'll be closing. So yeah, our big focus right now is strictly just growing our portfolio in the real estate rental property cash flow business.
Awesome. Love it. Yes. Well, like I said, say hi to Bobby, and thank you, the Castro family. You guys are genuine people and always putting out great stuff. So I appreciate coming on, and hopefully this will help other people in my community as well. Yes.
And if you guys have any questions about real estate, just go to my Instagram or my LinkedIn, send me messages. I'll answer any questions you have. And I love to empower women and let them know that they could do it. Even though this is a more dominant male industry, girls, you could do it too. If you stack and rack, you could do anything you want. And I did it. I mean, I did have a partner that was a super energetic PMA type of person, but I was right there. I did it with him, and you could do it too. Anybody could do this if you really put your mind to it and just put PMA in your life.
Yeah. Well, Bobby's even said he wouldn't be where he is today without you. So there you go.
I know. I love my hubby. He's the best.
Right on. All right, guys. Thanks a lot, and enjoy that sandy beach down there.
Thank you. Take care, David.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review on iTunes. Also, check out our website at 911wealthnetwork.com or contact Dave directly at 911wealthnetwork.com. Stay safe out there.